The reason some guys have muscle mass but still aren't desired by women and don't attract the respect and lust that they want is probably because they haven't optimized for this one physique trait. Like 3 years ago, I was at this girl's house. It was like a sneaky link, right? And I was standing at her fridge in her bedroom. It was a dark room and the light was kind of shining on my back, and I was facing the fridge and she was in the bed behind me. And I was standing there getting something out of the fridge and she told me to stand still, and I was thinking, why? Anyway, long story short, she wanted to take a picture of my back, and that girl became my girlfriend after some time, and she always used to comment on how sexy my back is. And when I asked her what she took a picture of, it was me, my back, and she explained how it was just somehow attractive, how it just looked good. And just recently I went on a holiday with one of my mates and we stayed in a hotel, and I brought a girl back to obviously study, and then yeah, as I was walking out with her, taking her back so she could catch an Uber or leave the place, I walked out of the hotel room with no shirt on, right? Because it was fucking hot. Math study be fucking making people sweaty these days, right? So anyway, I walked out, and as I was standing at the lift, I pressed the button. She was behind me, and then I walked out downstairs and led her out of the apartment, and there was a bunch of like Islander kids who were just at a sporting tournament, and they were all in their buses out the front. This was at like 3 in the morning, so they must have been leaving, and they all kind of fucking looked at me, right? And then she left, and then when I got home, she sent me a picture, and she sent me a picture of me, and I didn't even know she had taken it, right? But she had actually taken a picture of me from the back while I was pressing the button on the elevator, right? And of course I had no shirt on, so you can see my back. And this chick literally like color corrected it or put some like filter, saturation filter on it, right? So I don't know, it must have been some kind of fetish she had, right? But long story short, why would these girls be taking a picture of my back, or why would they be attracted to the back, right? And it's because the physique trait that I developed was the V taper. Now what the V taper is in simple terms is basically a physique trait where your shoulder to waist ratio looks like an upside down triangle. So basically you have wide, broad shoulders, a broad frame basically, and a smaller waist. And what this kind of does, I can't really explain it. It's the same effect on our brains in terms of attractiveness and desire and respect as well, that when we see a woman with the hourglass physique, a fat ass and a big chest, that shape, right? That shape that's like this is just somehow aesthetic to us. It's hardwired into our brain, right? Well, that's the same with the V-taper aesthetic for women. From women to men, when they see a man with a V-taper, where the shoulders are wide and the waist is small, kind of like Superman, then they instantly have this hardwired attractiveness. And that's why a lot of guys building their physique struggle, because they don't actually optimize for this physique. They instead optimize to look like a fridge, and they create this blocky look that does not look aesthetic at all. In the male eyes, we think, yeah bro, that guy's fucking jacked, he's huge, right? But realistically, to women, which is at the end of the day the goal you're trying to achieve, it's not that aesthetic. And that's why swimmers and a lot of sports people often have a lot of success with women, right? Because swimmers especially have this huge taper, this huge V taper, right? They look like very strong, protecting individuals, and that's exactly the trait that the V taper kind of alludes to. It alludes to a protection figure, because you look dominant and you look imposing because of your wider frame. And as well, when you partner that with a smaller waist, which is generally a measure of health, then females are hardwired biologically to be attracted to this. Now, how can we actually go about achieving this physique easily, and how did I do it myself? Well, firstly, we need to understand that there is actually a golden ratio, because you can go overboard or you can not do enough with this, right? Because you don't want to be a motherfucker that has shoulders that are this wide and a tiny ass waist, because then you just look alien. But you also don't want to be too close where you then look like a rectangle, right? So what you need to do is optimize for a 1.6x ratio. It's been scientifically proven that a 1.6x times ratio, so your shoulders need to be 1.6x times wider, or your upper body frame, than your waist. And that is going to ensure the most attractiveness and the most optimal results for you. and it's going to make it so girls are taking pictures of your back as well. How can we actually do this simply and effectively? Well, there's three main things I'm going to teach you. Firstly, there's two main exercises or two main muscles that you have to bring up in the gym, and then there's one secret hack that I've been using which actually emphasizes the effect of the V-taper. It can make up those extra inches or extra, ratio dimensions that you need to optimize your 1.6x ratio V-taper physique. Now, the first muscle we need to target is the lats, and I attribute the lats to 99% of the success I've had with my V-taper physique. And the way I developed them, interestingly, I started training them predominantly, a lot when I first started the gym, and that's why now they're a very good muscle group in my body. They almost carry my physique. So what I used to do to train my lats, which are the big muscle that run along the backside of your body, right? It's like the things that give you wings, right? And we're trying to actually get those wings to develop our V-taper physique. So what I did when I first started the gym, when I was pretty weak and pretty skinny, I used to just do the lat pull down machine because it was pretty stable, and the way I used to do it is I used to pull the bar down to just above my nipple line. You don't want to be pulling it too far down, like all the way down to your stomach like some people do. You want to be kind of doing it just to your chest line, because that's going to allow your lats to contract properly. Because the way that the lats contract is by bringing your elbow, your arm, down by the side of your body. And that's why also when you're doing it, you don't want to have too wide of a grip. You kind of want to be about shoulder width apart, because that's going to provide the best leverage point for your lats to actually work effectively and be targeted. So I used to do that, and then as I progressed in the gym, and this is something that you can do as well, then start using pull-ups. And specifically, I used to do weighted pull-ups, and I still do weighted pull-ups. And they were fundamental in creating these thicker, wider lats. And the reason weighted pull-ups are so good as well is because not many guys can do them. So if you can get really good at them, then you're going to skyrocket your lats. And that's 100% why I've got bigger lats than most people in the gym. Now, the second muscle you need to focus on is the shoulders, but the specific part of the shoulder is the side delt, because this is going to create more width going this way to emphasize the already tapered up physique that you have from developing your lats. So how do we train our side delts? Well, you probably know is to do side raises, but there's a few variations, and there's a variation that I found more beneficial for me, which helped me significantly, and that's to stop being a pussy when you're training your side delts. Because a lot of the time guys go in and they stand on the cable machine and do 2 kilo, like 5 pound side raises for high reps. What I actually did instead to get significant gains in my shoulders was to start going super heavy on lateral raises and treat them like almost like a compound lift, almost like I was training to actual failure, because the exercise was hard. So I used to pick up the weights. I used to go like 12 kilos, 15 kilos, and I used to rep them. And it's okay to swing a little bit, right? Because at the end of the day, if we can achieve failure, yes, some muscles are going to turn on to assist us, namely the traps. But if you can build your traps up as well, it's still going to create this bigger illusion up in this shoulder area, which is still going to emphasize your V-taper. Now, once you have those two exercises down pat, and you can do many other exercises, but those two are the ones I found work best, or those three: lat pull downs, pull-ups, and side lateral dumbbell raises. Once you have these down pat, then you can kind of exploit this hack that I use to this day, which helps me create even more of a V-taper in my body so that I look more imposing and I look more dominant. And that is to do with your style, right? We know that style is another part of attractiveness. So what we can do is we can actually wear certain type of clothes that will emphasize our V-taper. And the specific thing I would do right here is start wearing jackets. And you want to wear jackets that have a natural taper from the waist to the shoulders. So what that means is you want to have a jacket that is kind of thick or almost padded, like a leather jacket around the shoulder area, and then it becomes more kind of tight or not as square and blocky towards the waist. So that way you get an even more V-taper illusion. And another thing I do with this is I buy shorter jackets. So you have to think about it. We're trying to optimize for width. So if we can shorten, if we can shorten the jacket, it's going to make us look more horizontal instead of vertical. Because what happens when we wear clothes that are too long, it kind of throws out the general proportions of our body, right? You've seen those guys who wear fucking like really big long hoodies or really long shirts that fucking go past their ass, and it just looks like they're kind of like lanky or skinny, or like it just doesn't look right. So if you can implement like shorter, thicker clothing, then it's going to make you look wider. And another thing that I would do as well is to start wearing more monotone color schemes, so like things like all black or all gray, because what it does is from the pant level and from the waist and up to the shoulders, it creates kind of like a flow-on effect. And unless you have like really fucking massive legs or really skinny legs, it's going to look weird, but in general it will still create that kind of frame. When it's all in one color, it kind of looks like it flows smoothly. So if you follow those training steps and the secret style hack that will help emphasize your V-taper physique more, then chances are girls are going to start being more attractive to you. You're going to generate a general feeling of respect from guys as well, because they see you as more imposing and more dominant, more masculine, which is what we're trying to get after, which is what we're trying to achieve. And if you want my specific help on how to go from invisible to masculine and confident, where you're going to be able to attract attention from girls and get respect from guys, build a great physique, and fix bad habits and genuinely become a better man in the process, then you can check my school community down below. That's where I provide video tutorials and courses, and you get one-on-one help from me. With that being said, I hope this helped, and remember to grind on, refuse to be weak,